Bitcoin has been one of the best performing assets over the last decade, and there are many people across finance and asset allocation that are looking for ways to get exposure. But because of their investment mandate, they may not actually be able to just go buy Bitcoin or get exposure via the current means. This has put a lot of eyes on the idea of a spot Bitcoin ETF. Now, there are a number of countries around the world that have gone ahead and approved that Bitcoin spot ETF, but in the United States, we still don't have one. We simply got the approval of a Bitcoin futures ETF. It's a step in the right direction, but it doesn't exactly solve the problem for most investors who are looking to gain exposure to the digital currency. Now we get news that it looks like Australia is going to go ahead and approve a brand new Bitcoin spot ETF. Now, this spot ETF is a little unique in that it won't actually invest in Bitcoin directly, but rather in shares of the Purpose Investments Bitcoin ETF, which was North America's first Bitcoin spot ETF that began trading in early 2021. If we look here, we've got the Bloomberg analyst that spent all day thinking about ETFs. And Eric said that Australia is the 8th country to approve a spot Bitcoin ETF. The Cosmos Bitcoin ETF will list on April 27th, and they're expected to bring in $1 billion right off the bat. That's the equivalent of $100 billion in the United States. So this begs the question, where exactly are we with the Bitcoin spot ETF in the United States? Everyone is watching the multi-billion-dollar Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. It's already trading in the public markets. Will they be able to convert to an ETF? Will the SEC give them a green light? Well, if we take a look at that situation, we know that Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust is the largest Bitcoin fund in the world. They've been one of the loudest industry voices for getting the spot ETF approved. But it's not just the CEO making the push either. Thousands of their investors have now sent letters to the SEC showing frustration over the commission's rejection of that spot ETF product. Shares of the fund have been trading at a massive discount for months, and that is inspiring an attempt to transition it into that ETF product where redemptions would finally be possible. Grayscale is currently in a waiting pattern. The SEC is set to make a decision in July. Now, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, and something tells me that the SEC isn't really that excited about approving the Bitcoin spot ETF yet, but Grayscale's got a pretty good case, it appears. The CEO of Grayscale, Michael Schunnenstein, made a great point where he stated that if the SEC can't look at two like issues, the futures ETF and the spot ETF, through the same lens, then it is, in fact, potentially grounds for an Administrative Procedure Act violation. This is going to be one of the most important things to pay attention to at the intersection of Bitcoin and legacy finance. If a Bitcoin spot ETF gets approved in the United States, the thought process is that billions, potentially tens of billions, and maybe even $100 billion will flow into that product very quickly. We saw with the gold ETF that when it got approved, gold's price went up significantly in a short period of time. The idea here is that if all of a sudden, many of these large pools of capital, these professional, sophisticated asset allocators are finally able to get exposure to Bitcoin, you have a finite supply of an asset and a drastic increase in demand, the US dollar price would have to accelerate to accommodate everyone.
Hey you, did you like this video? Great, we make 5 of them a day and post them here on this channel. Make sure you're subscribed, like the video, and see you next time.